Hey, Boo.
Hey, Boo.
This is Michelle.
This is Julie coming to you guys from Seattle, Washington, the Emerald City, where we have a really interesting episode for you. And what is it called, Michelle?
Just do you, Boo.
That's right. Just do you, Boo. And we could also say just do you, bro, because we are equal opportunists. And this information is not only for women, but of course it's for men too.
So however you listen to it, because my guy he's my boo.
Yeah.
So, just do you, Boo. That can be for guys too.
And as my brother-in-law said not that long ago, he loves listening to our podcast, but he has to take an extra dose of testosterone before he starts, just to be sure.
We'll protect the names.
Yeah,
So,
we'll protect the names. Don't worry.
yeah.
Well, yeah, let's get started then. We thought this would be kind of an interesting topic, especially for people that are kind of in our age category, because as we've found, raising families, careers, trying to figure out what's happening in life and what's next, there's a very big opportunity, which you don't even realize sometimes, for you to get lost in everything that's going on around you. And so we thought just kind of talking through how being authentic is, a wonderful way to live, really, and is something that you really can't just automatically do. I think you have to kind of work through it and figure out what works for you.
And I think, too, not even having to go through all those circumstances, like you were just talking about, things that we've been through. It definitely helps along the way, going through a lot of that and being able to look back now. Hindsight is, 20/20, as they say, so you can look back and see how you do get lost in those things. But I think when you hear the term, just do you, boo, it's something that if you really focus on certain daily activities within yourself, even a younger person that is married, has the kids, going through all the things, it's something that you can do your own version of, I think, as well. So,
Yeah. Well, kind of dialing back to what brings us to this topic to begin with, both being women that raised families. And I can recall going through not sleeping a whole lot and doing the projects for school and traveling for work and making cookies for everybody and having the overnights for the kids. And just, everything about you kind of gets put on the back burner. At least that's how I remember feeling about it, where I did definitely feel lost, or like I was not really in the moment, in the critical moments that were happening in, our lives, where I was just like, okay, on to the next, because I had so much going on and you have so many people relying on you.
Yeah, checking the things off the list.
Yes, the list checking. That's kind of dangerous, but definitely something that we've all done, because I find even when I get kind of overwhelmed and stressed out today, that's the first thing I do is I go through and in my mind I'm organizing my thought by putting things together like on a task list, and then I feel like I have a little bit more control.
Dotting those I's, crossing the T's.
Yep. Yeah. And the same thing with I'll clean my house, or I'll do things that are helping me keep my mind off of things when I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And so I think as we've gotten into life and with social media and all of the other things that are pulling us in different directions, it's very easy to lose your sense of identity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It is. I know, just like we said, we can both look back and see that.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you have been able to identify, to keep you tied to yourself, Michelle, just in the last few years?
Oh gosh. Self-care
Okay.
is a big one, and travel, believe it or not. Those are some things that I've never really experienced before, and I still don't do a whole lot of it, but I have made the decision and I have done some travel thanks to you. that year, it was about 5 years ago, you kind of busted my chops and were like, Michelle, you really need to do these things more. And you were right.
Yeah, it kind of, I talked to Eileen about this. It's about having experiences or living experiences when you're able to, kind of like when we're going to concert or mostly we've talked about it with concerts or different events and things, where I'm like, this is an experience. Sometimes experiences are going to cost money, a little bit more money than other things. And so we do our best to try to plan for those things, but you don't want to miss out on things that are important to you if you don't have the money for it, if you're not able to plan things in advance. I think that makes the hugest difference. And also gives you something to look forward to.
Absolutely does. But travel, clothes, hair, makeup, doing the things the way I want to do them so that I can feel the way I want to feel about myself.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, again, women that are more mature, I would say, would you feel that you've questioned things about how you're choosing to be authentic? Like, I know you had really, I'm trying to think of when the time frame was. It's been a few years now. Have that mantra of never settle.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's obviously come from settling. In the past, I mean, girlfriend's got a tattoo on her foot. We know she means business, right?
Never settle. That is a mantra for me. And it was just a good reminder of what I wanted to look forward. It just was, putting blinders on and really just looking forward and focusing on myself, even though I still had my youngest son was, in high school, and I was still raising and helping get him through that. But it gave me the confidence to do some of those things, like I mentioned. And to your point that you started out with, being so lost in a shuffle. When I look back, that's kind of how it felt to me, was a shuffle.
A little bit of a blur.
And so really those words of affirmation, I know we mentioned that in another episode, and focusing on that and really coming to an understanding of what I wanted and what I was going to do to be able to feel good about that. And when I say what I wanted, I just mean within myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not material things.
Not
but
material things. Just
what you wanted for yourself.
Yep. How I wanted to feel about myself. And I just kind of came out of my shell. I don't know.
Yeah. I could say I probably did too. It's funny because I feel like even over the years, I think back on so many instances where I feel like I was a really super independent person with my own thought process and everything. But reality is that that's not always how it was. You think about like your dress or how you wear your hair or things that are more external, and the judgment and everything that goes along with that potentially when you are being yourself. And I think I did let a lot of those things bother me, when I was younger, especially. Now, as I've gotten older, I feel totally different about it. But I think having repressed, maybe that's a good word, a lot of my true personality, because I was feeling I needed to be so responsible, and I had so many responsibilities, and I had people relying on me. It's like I kind of wasn't myself a lot of the time. I was more serious, and now I'm kind of super goofy a lot of the time, and I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't like it, too bad, and I've heard that before. It's like, you don't really act your age. And I'm like, I don't know if that's an insult or if that's a compliment, and I guess I don't. I mean, what does a 59-year-old act like?
Well, and I think sometimes you hear that from people that maybe wish they could come out and maybe experience or do some of those things the way that they want to, have that freedom.
Yeah.
And
I think some of it comes from, like I mentioned before, judgment, and the people that are really close to you in your inner circle and the judgments that surround from that, because I know that is definitely something that has probably given me pause, even when I was younger, giving me pause about the people that I was dating.
Yeah.
Or I've definitely had issues with my family and people that I was interested in that they weren't approved of.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is way, way back in the day, obviously.
Yeah.
But you kind of formulate who you are as an adult, even when you're not necessarily there yet. So you're kind of that fake it till you make it thing.
Right.
And so the amount of energy that goes into trying to figure all that out while you're portraying who you are can be really exhausting.
I was exhausted just listening to you say all that right now. Truly. Yeah. And I was thinking about back when you were talking about dating. I think early on for me, I unknowingly, again, I can look back now, but unknowingly just took it upon myself to be myself. I, of course, the man I was married to for 26 years and we had 4 children was Black. And so we met in 1985. So it was a while ago, lived in a pretty conservative city. But from the moment we met and we started dating, I wasn't going to be hesitant about bringing him around my family.
Yeah.
You talk about the judgment. You just don't know what to expect.
Well, and you'd think in the really conservative upbringing that you had, there would have been more judgment around that.
Yeah.
But so when we were talking about this while we were preparing for this episode, I was asking Michelle a lot of questions about how that went down, when she was bringing her ex-husband now home, and her family was very kind to him.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty amazing.
It was amazing. And I think too that, because you never know what to expect, at least that's how it was for me and my family. It's
right.
not going to be the same for everybody, but I wasn't going to hide it. Mm-hmm. And again, you think of Just Do You, Boo. I think about that, and I definitely did that back then. And yeah, my family was great. They were great with him.
Yeah, I think whether I realize it or not, really kind of looking at myself as a younger version of myself, I was definitely more of a conformist than I have given myself credit for. And maybe the path of least resistance when it came to some of the decisions that I had made, because it was maybe easier. But as I got older, I kind of stopped doing that, and probably pissed a lot of people off in the process. That's one of the things that might come out of you really trying to be your authentic self, because people may want to control you and may want to see you in a different way, or they want you to live your life a certain way, and you come out and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. If you think about it, it's just like people who are in the closet. Obviously I'm not a person, I'm heterosexual, I'm not in the closet, but you think about people who have grown up having to hide their persona, hide who they are from the people that are supposedly loving them and accepting of them, but once their family finds out, they're not accepted. And so you can see why that happens a lot of the time, because they're not necessarily going to be in a situation where they're going to have their family around them if they tell them the truth. And on the flip side of that, it's kind of like, well, your family would be your family's loss, not your loss, I guess. I don't even know why I brought that up. It just seems like something that would be Just Be You, Boo is probably the best topic for something like that, because the amount of courage that it takes to be yourself when you are different than other people. Yeah. Not that it's bad, not that it's good, just different. We're all different, right? But that you're not accepted because it would be really tough, I think.
I did look up in the Urban Dictionary. I just kind of wanted to see, because, Just Do You, Boo has gotten to be quite a phrase over the last few years.
Right.
And it's basically being yourself and stop worrying about others and what they think.
Right.
So other people just need to mind their own business, really.
I know.
And not say anything. Or if they do, if you have a girlfriend and she says, those pants are ugly, don't worry about it. And your other friend says, don't worry about what she says, just do you, boo. That's kind of the whole thing around that. That's a very simple thing to think about, but it's really true.
So now if some girl came up to me and said, your pants are ugly, I'd say, you ugly.
There you go. That's a good response.
But the different response, because it's like, first of all, who's going to do that? How rude. But second of all, it might be the eye roll behind your back kind of a thing, but it's like, who cares what they think? They're not even my friend anyway.
Haters are going to hate.
Yeah.
Right?
Haters are going to hate.
Haters are going to hate.
Isn't that the truth? So I think being authentic means keeping it 100, keeping it completely legit. In your mind, you're honest, you're straightforward, you're unapologetic about it. I think all of those things definitely play a role. And when you take your mask off, meaning, you're out in the business world or you're dealing in a professional capacity or, whatever the case may be, when you get home, you're your own person. And I guess the question is, do you have to be a different person when you're out in the world?
There's different circumstances. It's just do you, boo, and that's great. And you can be a realist and you can do all those things. There's part of that reality that, well, actually, I feel like I'm pretty me.
You are very you.
At my job, even though there's certain things that, I'm not going to fly out in front of everybody. You have to know your audience somewhat when it comes to social events.
Right.
Or if you're a mom with young children and you're at the PTA, whatever.
You represent them.
You're representing them too. So there's a time and a place in some circumstances. But for the most part, I think the core of who you are, when you think of Just Be You, Boo, the core of who you are can really shine through. If you're letting that light shine, if you will, it's not like it has to be on bright the whole time.
Right.
But it's going to be one of those dimmer adjustments. There's going to be a bright, a medium, and then maybe a little bit, I'm not even going to call it dim because I don't like that, but a lower level.
A lower level light.
of light, so knowing your audience and know when to turn it on bright and how that needs to be, I think, is somewhat important, especially as an adult. You don't want to embarrass your kids.
No.
I mean, I think just this podcast sometimes is embarrassing.
Well, we have actually
our
chatted
kids
about that because we want to be, and we have talked about this many times, we want to be our authentic selves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have other people we need to consider. And we don't want to put our families or people that are examples on our podcast in a precarious place.
Right.
Where they feel upset for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
that's why a lot of the time you'll notice that we don't really use names. It's our kids or whomever, because you guys wouldn't necessarily know who we're talking about. But our life experiences are surrounded by people that we have spent time with.
Yeah, and there's emotions wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
and a lot of different things. So
Doesn't mean that you can't be authentic about it, but you have to be mindful of,
Yeah.
other people's feelings and things too.
how did we get on that?
I have no idea. Was that a rabbit hole?
It kind of was.
I don't know. Maybe because I was just at dinner with my kids the other night and they were saying, "Oh my God, have you been talking about us?" Because there's episodes that they haven't heard yet because they haven't dropped. But yeah, we talk about you guys. I mean, you're a big part of our lives. But,
Yeah.
it's usually pretty good stuff. And as we had stated in our original commitment, that there are going to be topics that are raw and topics that might be a little controversial
Unfiltered.
and unfiltered. And we want to
Yeah.
maintain that integrity and ensure that we are being genuine in how we provide information or topics
Keeping
to
it
all of you.
100.
Keep it 100. Yes, ma'am.
But back to, I think what got me on that, getting back to it, was the, knowing your audience in the social setting. It doesn't mean that you can't be you, because you definitely let your light shine and show who you are. You can do that really in all circumstances.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How do you think this topic relates to setting boundaries around the things that are important to you? Do you feel like as you've gotten older, you've been better about doing that?
Setting boundaries.
Yeah. So things that I don't know of a specific example, but you have people that want to interject maybe into your life or have given you filters or comments or whatever about different things that aren't necessarily relevant to you, or the question here, setting boundaries in order to accomplish doing you. How do you set boundaries in order to do that?
That's a tough question.
It kind of is, as I'm thinking this through. Well, I've asked you the question and I'm thinking of my own response because I haven't heard yours yet. I'll start with that because it's like in my
Okay.
mind, I'm kind of thinking this through with setting boundaries. I have found that it gives me a feeling of freedom to be able to, it's how you set the boundaries too. It's like you want to make sure that you're kind, about how you do that, or that you establish what is important to you and really commit to or stay committed to that feeling or that idea or whatever it is, and not deviate from that because you're receiving pressure, from somebody else. So like, for example, there's a person in my life and I have to establish boundaries around how I spend time with that person in order to keep my sanity. In order for me to feel like I am providing really good company and that I'm being true to myself at the same time, because it's really, like I said before, it's easy to get lost in
Yeah.
some of those things, especially with people that you really care about. You want to please them. I mean, if you're more of a people pleaser, then that setting boundaries would be a very, very difficult, challenging thing to do.
I grew up that way,
Yeah. With boundaries, or
being a people pleaser.
so you didn't really have any boundaries
I still find that I'm that way,
being a people pleaser.
being a people pleaser.
I am
Yeah.
too, actually, to some degree. I think a lot of it has to do with my work.
Yeah.
I want to make sure people feel like they're heard, that they're comfortable, that they're supported, that they're getting good communication, and that they know they can always talk to me if they need something. Now, do I always portray that? Probably not, but that's what I strive for.
I think the boundary thing kind of ties in with self-care. The
Okay.
more
Yes.
we're talking about this, because you can get so caught up in saying yes when you are a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Yes to that assignment at church, and yes to helping in the class, and yes to going on the field trip, and yes, I can take the kids if driving them and carpooling and all kinds of things. And I'm just thinking back to, of course, when
The kids were
the
smaller.
kids were younger, but you get so caught up in those things. And And you have to stop and pause, I believe, and take a moment of reflection, which can be even self-care. You think of self-care and it's like not always a bubble bath and,
Right.
you know, relaxing music in the darkness of the bathroom. But
With the candle.
Yeah, with the candle. But self-care can just be a moment of reflection and saying, okay, what do I need to let go here? I think letting go is part of self-care and
Yes.
setting boundaries.
Yes, I would agree that giving yourself the permission to let something go. Well, we talked about this in a couple episodes
yeah,
ago.
we sure did.
It takes a load off my shoulders because the expectations we have for ourselves sometimes can be very, very high. And if we have young moms and dads that might be listening to this podcast, they are probably shaking their head going, oh my gosh, I totally get what you're talking about, because they're running in so many different directions. Now, this is no shade to guys, but I'm just saying women do take on a lot more responsibility when it comes to the family typically. Now, I think in this day and age, you see things a lot more evened out where men and women are both involved. But the reality is we're the ones that are, you know, getting them to their doctor appointments, know what size clothes they wear, know how to prepare their food. You know, we definitely know all of those things. And I know as a mom, I wanted to be able to do those things and kind of have my kids have a good experience as kids. So you take on all of these extra things. If it's coaching their team, or it's being the room mom, or being the cookie mom for brownies, or whatever the case may be. It's like I feel sometimes like I thought I was Superwoman. Like, of course I can do all of these things because I am Superwoman, you know?
Yeah.
In reality, I was a sleep deprived woman.
Don't get it twisted now.
Yeah.
We're not saying don't do those things.
No, you should do those things if you have children and you want to participate in their lives. Absolutely.
The message, I think, through all that is take time for yourself.
Or maybe put yourself in a situation where you don't feel like you have to do everything. Like one example that can probably resonate well with a lot of people that have children that are in school still is how much pressure there is when kids are in sports to play multiple sports at a time, or play select ball, whether it's football or it's basketball or baseball or whatever, and they own your schedule because you're at practices all the time. I think honestly a lot of that is the demise of the family, because we never sat down to dinner together, very rarely. And when we did, it was like a night once a month. I mean, really very sad when you think about it, because that was the family dynamic is really what would hold all of us together. But no, we were eating cereal at 8:30 at night when we got home from practice, and getting their baths or showers or whatever and getting them to bed. It was a very chaotic time. I adore all of it. I wouldn't do any of it differently. I adore my children, and I would do all of the same things for them. But I guess those are the things you have to think about, because when I was referring to earlier about getting kind of lost, that's what I'm talking about, because everything around you is for other people. You're not taking that time. So when we talk about taking time, just be you, we're not talking about being selfish. I'm not, that's a really strong derogatory word.
The guilt, though?
Yes.
Can we just talk about that?
I am Catholic, so hey.
The guilt that I know I would feel when I would take a moment for myself, even if it was a family gathering.
Yeah.
Maybe I was getting together with my sisters or something, and to leave the kids and go do. I mean, I still got a million phone calls while I was out trying to take time for myself.
Yeah.
And you feel guilty the whole time you're away. I think that's important, though, to schedule some time. I always admired women that would go out with their girlfriends. I really didn't do that very much. I really didn't. I was very involved in church, but I didn't do, fun things that took me out of that setting, even the church and family setting, and just doing some fun things for myself. I didn't really do that very much.
So my fun thing when the kids were younger, which I'm very grateful for now, this is such a 30s mom thing, was I loved scrapbooking. I mean, it was such a geek. I loved it though. And I met one of my really dear friends, Melissa. That's how I met her. And we're still friends to this day. We were just at brunch last weekend having mimosas. I have these amazing books now with the kids' information in them. And I've got it chronologically by year. And I've written notes in them, things I would never in a million years remember otherwise. So my time away was doing something kind of for my family. But you'd have to be away for a couple of days at a time. And, you're you're up many hours working on these projects and everything. It's not like, you're out partying or anything, but you're away from your family.
Right.
So I would say the one way to describe those that are in a really overwhelming state, it's really easier said than done, but is to give yourself grace and give yourself the permission to just be, because it's very difficult to do. I mean, even just setting your phone down and not scrolling through TikTok and not scrolling through, Instagram and all these things, but just letting yourself be and being mindful of what's important to you in that moment is all about self-care. It's all about just being you and being your authentic self.
And remember, what doesn't kill you
will make you stronger.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I have said that.
When you think about doing you, such an interesting term, but it's doing whatever you think is best for yourself and what suits your personality, right? And I guess marching to your own tune, if you will, and feeling good about that in all aspects, who you're spending at this point now outside of kids are grown. And now here we are back to how you were bringing up in the beginning, the things that we've been through and really trying to gain back that self-identity.
Right.
And it kind of starts coming through based on those things, like who you're spending your time with and the things that you're doing when you're spending that time. And you start recognizing more things that you didn't know about yourself. And
absolutely.
And so it just kind of starts growing and flourishing and becoming its own identity in a way.
Well, we are, I would say, very different people. I mean, I think everybody, as they progress through life, becomes a different version of themselves as they grow up and they have different experiences and different traumas and just living life the way that they live it. And when you get to be that age where all of a sudden it's like the kids are gone, your responsibility is really to yourself. And if you're married, then your responsibility is obviously to your husband, but you still have responsibility to your kids. But all of a sudden, things just look very, very different. Like someone was asking me today, so are you going to stay here? You going to stay in Seattle? And we were talking about, of course, the weather, but which is a big issue for me because I don't like it when it's cold, and now it's going to be snowing this weekend. So I don't like that. And I really crave sunshine, but I have my roots here. So I was saying, I really will always have my place here. I will always have my house. I told my kids when I die, they cannot sell it because it was such a headache to build. This is not a joke. I'm not kidding.
Sister is stating facts.
Stating major fact. But I will likely get something in a warmer climate where I can go back and forth and just be in the warmer climate when I am not here and be here when I'm not, when it's too hot in the warmer climate or whatever. And I guess the funny thing is that I can do whatever the hell I want. And there might be people that are opposed to that in my family or whatever. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm trying to work around all of the things that are super important to me and make sure that I've got all of those bases covered. But when I go back to saying we only get one life, we only get one opportunity to do it differently. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess we evolve, but we only get one opportunity really to make those choices as we get older, and are we going to make bad choices? Probably make a few bad ones. And are we going to make good choices? Yeah, hopefully we've got all of our ducks in a row and we're able to really make thought out decisions about what is important for us and what we love and what we want to do. And you know what? Not everybody's going to be thrilled about the choices that we make. And that's okay.
Preach, sister.
And that's okay.
It is. That's okay. It's so interesting that you're bringing that up, because I was just talking to somebody this morning actually about thinking, do I ever think about living anywhere else besides Seattle? Same conversation. And it's interesting because for me, my roots are here. I have grandchildren. They're here. Not all of my family is here, but a lot of it. And it's nice and I enjoy it and it's my life. But when I think about that, to your point, I would be okay with being somewhere else. I would still see my family.
Right.
It's not like it would just look different. It
but
would
15,
be a little
20
different.
years ago, is that even a thought that
Not
would
even
have
a
crossed
thought.
your mind? I know.
Not even a thought.
So it goes back to taking care of you and what you need for yourself, and it's, again, not a selfish thing. I want to be really clear when we're talking about just do you boo. We're not talking about being self-absorbed or selfish in any way. Those words are very judgmental and not words that we are using here. This is really about you being your authentic self. And we're trying to articulate how we have become better at being our authentic selves. Now, there's a whole work in progress going on here. At least for me. Michelle's perfect.
No, I am not perfect. Far from it.
We are not perfect people, just like everybody else out there. But, you know, as we strive toward some of the goals that we're setting, or we choose to make decisions that we know aren't necessarily going to be the most favorable for other people, we do all of that with a lot of thought, really, and a lot of meditation on it, and just really getting opinions of the people that matter to us if we choose to do that. But I think all of that's really important to note, because I haven't always felt like that's what I could do in my life. And it's not to say anything negative about, you know, my life, because I've had a pretty amazing life up to now. So it's just more like I just really hadn't thought about doing other things, or what my life would be like, or what my 5-year plan was like, because I was so busy in the moment trying to deal with everything else that I kind of didn't think about myself really.
I think too, moving into that as a young person and growing up in a strict religion, I was always back to the judgment, always worried about what other people were going to think in so many different things, many different things. And so I would hide a lot of my life activity from my family because I didn't want to disappoint or let them down. And I think that carries on over, you know, for me, it carried on over into so many different aspects of life and family, and the way that I ended up moving through all that. And until I just in the last 10 years, it was really freeing to start that journey. It's like a never ending journey, but it's almost like you're starting a whole other one. And
I think that is very true, because I found out a lot of things about myself that I didn't really know or didn't really even know to investigate or to learn about, because I was kind of a shell. I really feel like I was kind of a shell in a lot of ways, and I didn't really start becoming the person that I truly probably was meant to portray until after I gave myself permission to just let things go and be okay with it. And so, nowadays, like, I laugh about it now, because I really feel like I am a person who is very, in a lot of ways, I make a joke about it, like I'm immature. And when I say I'm immature, I don't really mean immature per se. I just mean like I'm just kind of,
girlfriend has fun. Okay, let's just be honest right now. It's not that you're immature, but you really know how to live in the moment. You take opportunities that aren't going to come along every day.
She laughs at me because I'm like, okay, we're going to this concert.
I bought tickets.
I got us tickets.
And then there's always me. How much were they?
I'm like, it's an experience.
Yeah.
We've got time.
So Julie, not immature. She just knows she
free
enjoys.
Spirit.
Yeah, she's definitely a free spirit, and you're lucky you get to get a little part of her.
But
these podcasts.
You're so sweet.
Yeah.
But I really think it's kind of doubling down on me being so, I don't know what the word would even be, but just not myself a lot of the time.
Repressed.
Emotionally, sexually.
All the ways. Repressed.
All the leaves.
Suppressed.
No, I'm just kidding. No, just learned a lot about myself. So as you progress in your life, people out there, go out and have the fun and see the concerts you want to see, and go to listen to music you've never heard before, and dance at the bar you want to go to, and
have your hair pink, wear that skirt, buy the shoes, and have your 22-year-old son take pictures of you before you go out with your girlfriends.
Yeah.
He hates it.
I know,
Every time we get
he loves
dressed
us.
up, we're gonna go out, and I'm like, "Hey, will you come take pictures of us before?" He's just like rolls his eyes, but I want those pictures, man.
I do too, because they're really cute pictures, actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I was kind of starting to go out and do more stuff, I mean, I had someone say to me, "It's like, guys, it's like you're a 25-year-old out partying," and I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah,
because it's like 25-year-olds, like, I don't know, maybe get drunk in the bathroom.
I was gonna say, not my idea of a 25-year-old partying the way we party. It's
but
it
wasn't set said to me in a fun way. It was
Yeah.
said to me in a very judgmental,
Right.
derogatory way. So you know what I said?
What'd you say?
F you. No, I didn't say that. Oh yeah, I did.
Inside your head,
In
you
my head,
probably
I did
did.
because they didn't deserve a response. It was, someone talking shit, but
Yeah.
whatever. It is
Yeah.
what it is, and I'm fine with it. But I do recall a lot of that going, as long as my kids are okay and they don't feel like I'm scaring the hell out of them with the things that I do, then I'm fine because they're my priority, and they, I do want to make sure that they feel good about and are proud of their mother. Yes. But they are very surprised by me a lot of the time. And I think that they have this idea in their head of how I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do and how I do it, that when I don't, they look at me and go, oh.
Well, and just as you were just saying that, I kind of had this aha moment of what our kids, or just any kids, as they see their parent progress through life.
Right.
And entering a whole other phase like we are. And it probably is they probably do have this idea of who mom is because of what we've been for so many years. So then when it starts to shift and change a little bit, they're probably just like scratching their head going, oh my gosh, what is she doing now?
Yeah. Okay. Like my youngest, he's like, oh mom, I cannot even listen to the podcast. La 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 la. He's plugging his ears. He says, I can't listen to, there's things I probably don't need to know. And I'm just cracking up laughing going, oh my gosh, you are young. It's fine. Everything will be fine. So,
Okay.
so as we kind of wrap this episode up, we really just want to emphasize that what we're talking about is giving you hopefully some insight into being your authentic self and giving you the courage to be able to make some decisions for yourself and be able to live your life in a different way if that's what you want to do, and not letting society, not letting all of the things around you dictate the direction that you go.
Yeah. Give yourself permission.
Permission.
Yeah.
I like saying grace too. Give yourself grace,
Permission, grace. Those are really great things.
Yeah, and we don't do that often enough for ourselves.
Yeah. I have a final thought in regards to all this, Jules.
You do? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this today, and I wanted to write some things down. I don't know why. It's just because I think this is really important. But in a world where technology seems to have stolen time and authenticity from so many, the challenge will continue to tighten its grip on each one of us, making it difficult to be constant and real. Remember that there is only one unique, beautiful you, and the world needs you just the way you are. So do you, boo, whatever that might be.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to all of you out there, hopefully you're out doing you, not doing someone else, doing you.
Do someone else too. Come on.
There she goes.
Yeah, anyways, till next time,
Till
everybody.
next time, we will see you soon. Take it easy.
Bye.